Set goals. Goals allow you to control the direction of change in your favour. Brian Tracy, American author and coach. When in 15th of June 2001, my husband left our family. On the 30th of June 2001, I decided to learn Braille. I was tired of the negativity that had surrounded my life and I wanted to do something positive. I thought about learning Braille but wasn't sure whether how useful or relevant it was going to be for me. But I'd been removed from the written word for 4 years. I wasn't able to read print at all. So I thought at minimum it could be of some use. I went out to the Foundation of the Blind for 6 months, and by the end of the year I'd learnt contracted Braille, which is a pretty speedy time to learn, but I fell in love with Braille. I fell in love with the independence and the creativity that it brought to my life, and I loved the fact that I was reunited with the written word. The next year I went and set my Braille Proficiency Certificate, which is a certificate that's set by the Foundation of the Blind that shows you have a certain level of competency. And at the end of that year I noticed, or I was told that there was a job at the Foundation of the Blind going for a Braille awareness consultant. So I got flown up to Auckland for an interview for a position that I had no idea whether I was going to be able to do or not, but they saw something in me and I was actually successful in getting the job. So for 5 years I was the Braille awareness consultant at the Royal New Zealand Foundation of the Blind. Shortly before I left, something happened. My childhood friend Philippa died of cancer at the age of 39. She'd had a 5-year battle with cancer and she'd had 2 young boys as well, just like me. And I went over to Queensland for her funeral, which is where she was living at the time. And I had to deliver a eulogy at her funeral. And it was as I was standing there that I looked down in the direction of her coffin and I thought, we all have a deadline. Philippa's was 39, what's mine going to be? And I'd been at the Foundation for nearly 5 years and wasn't feeling very fulfilled in the role, and I thought I need to do something. So I thought, okay, your deadline's 39, what's mine going to be? I need to do something. So I came back home from her funeral and I decided that I would pursue study in life coaching. I'd always thought about it and I really wanted to understand the science behind goal setting. I enrolled in a course that was $3,500 and I had no idea how I was going to pay for it. Fortunately, a week later I got a tax rebate for exactly the same amount. So that was fantastic and I started studying life coaching, and at the end of that year I left the Foundation of the Blind and worked at CCS Disability Action for a year as an awareness education coordinator, and then at the end of that time went across to Paris for Louis Braille's bicentennial anniversary. Louis Braille had impressed me because, well, he inspired me because he was one man who had made a difference. He was a young boy who had gone blind at the age of 4 and had, after creeping into his father's workshop and got an infection from an injury that he sustained through playing with his father's sharp tools. He went to his local school and at the age of 10 he went to the first school for the blind in Paris. It was there that he created his code of dots that enabled blind people all around the world to read and write. And we still use it to this day. So for me to go to Paris to celebrate Louis Braille's life was really important. Because I had to get there, I had to set another goal. How was I going to get there? How was I going to raise the money? I decided that I'd have a truffle-a-thon, because I make truffles. They're called those bloody truffles again. Because when I went blind, if I couldn't remember the recipe, I didn't bake it. So I made lots of those bloody truffles again. And I'm sure people said, there's Julie with those bloody truffles again. But now it's me that thinks, oh, not those bloody truffles again. Anyway, I thought I'd have a truffle-a-thon. And I thought, I need to get some publicity for this, so how will I do that? I thought, oh, I know, it'd be great to be on TV, wouldn't it? Who would I want to be on TV with? Oh, John Campbell's my favourite, so how about I rang him? We were having the truffle-a-thon at the Polytech kitchen on the 21st of November, so I rang him a couple of weeks before. And I rang TV3 and the receptionist said, just one minute, I said, hello, can I speak to John Campbell please? And the receptionist said, putting you through. And I thought I was just going to get some lackey, you know, way down the chain. Anyway, good morning, John speaking. I was like, oh my goodness. And I was like, hi John, my name's Julie Woods and I'm that blind woman and I want to go to Paris for Louis Braille's 5th anniversary and I'm going to have a truffle-a-thon. I was wondering if you'd be there. And he goes, oh, that sounds interesting, tell me more. So I started telling him about my story and how I'd gone blind through inflammation of the retina. And he goes, oh, couldn't they bloody uninflame it? And I said, no, they couldn't, John, no. So after talking with him for 10 minutes, he said, if Carol won't let me cover it, I'll give it to News. And Hamish Clark rang me a couple of hours later and subsequently came down that following week and filmed me in the Polytech kitchen. So we managed to get ourselves on Campbell Live that night. So it was great to have the support from John Campbell and that was a great opportunity. So we hit the plane on New Year's Eve 2008 and arrived in Paris after 30 hours of flying. I went with my partner Ron, who decided that it would be an adventure to go on the metro rather than catch a taxi to the hotel. So after 30 hours of flying, we got lost on the metro and I think I got shoved through that many turnstiles. It wasn't funny. I now know why women fell in love with Americans in the war, because they're very helpful. I had 2 American men that offered to take my suitcase. It was wonderful. January the 4th was Louis Braille's birthday and we went to the celebrations, which began with a concert at Notre Dame. And there were 5 blind organists who performed at that concert that night on Louis Braille's birthday. Louis Braille was a keen organist himself, so it was very fitting that we had an organ recital. We went to a conference for the next 3 days, which was 450 blind people from 46 countries around the world. We went to Louis Braille's birthplace on the last day, where I got to put my hands on some of the boards that Louis Braille's father had created so that Louis Braille could learn the letters of the alphabet and some of the early Braille stuff that had existed. So it was a very spiritual journey for me, going to the Holy Grail of Braille, and something that I will never forget. So when we left the birthplace that day, I knelt down and put a Kiwi flag in the garden just to let Louis Braille know that Kiwis had been there to celebrate his 200th birthday. So that's what happens when you set goals. So focus on the gain, not the pain. Julie Woods, professional speaker and coach. Key number 5, find your own solutions. All answers exist now within me, John Kehoe, author of Mind Power. And when I went blind, I had lots of problems that needed lots of solutions. Some of the solutions were simple. They just involved a rubber band and putting it around a bottle of shampoo as opposed to a bottle of conditioner. Putting it around a bottle of green milk to identify or to differentiate it from a bottle of blue milk. Putting no rubber band around a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. One rubber band around a bottle of Chardonnay and 2 rubber bands around a bottle of Riesling. So I could tell the difference, the wine that was in my fridge. I was separated and I needed some money. So my sister saw an advertisement in the paper for research assistants at Otago University. I decided to apply and I wasn't sure whether the technology that I had was up for the job. I'd learnt how to touch type and I'd learnt how to use Braille, but I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to access the information into their database. I talked to my brother-in-law before I went and he said to me, whatever they ask about technology, Ju, just say yes. I was like, okay, alright, I can do that. So I was sitting in the interview and we got to that important part where